Final Fantasy XIV. That looks like 15. Hey everyone, my name is Lokidum, and welcome back to the series where I try to get hooked on MMOs. Which is always a bad idea, no matter how you put it. Anyways, today's video is on Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, which took place in 2010's disastrous Final Fantasy XIV Online. With that, let's get right into the video. In Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, you take up the mantle of the Warrior of Light, someone blessed by the Crystal Hydaelyn. A Realm Reborn takes place 5 years after the events that brought 1.0 to a close, an event known as the Calamity that sent the moon of Dalameed crashing into the continent that 14 takes place on, called Eorzea. The first thing you have to do when jumping into 14 is choosing a data center and server. People in different data centers cannot play together, or interact at all for that matter, but people on different servers within the same data center are able to play together. I went for the Primal Data Center with the Excalibur server, as many of my friends actually play the game and play on that server. So if you're looking to get into Final Fantasy XIV and you already have friends who play the game, make sure to find out what server they're on. I mean, unless you don't want to play with them, of course, because that's a completely legitimate option too. After choosing a server, you are immediately into the character creator. There are 5 races to choose from with the base game, but by buying the expansions, you can gain access to the additional 3. What is interesting about 14 is that race means literally nothing. It's purely aesthetic and is only there for lore and role-playing purposes, which quite surprised me, and I failed to grasp this simple concept. Okay, so for races, we have Hyur, which is a humanoid. The Hyur are said to have first traveled to Azeroth from surrounding continents and islands. These great migratory waves later, they are now the most populous of all the civilized races. They exhibit a relatively moderate physique, both in height and build, and are known for their peculiarly short, round ears. Hyurs are well suited for traveling long distance by foot, a trait thought to account for their swift proliferation. Okay. So that's the human race. Elizons, this is like a high elf kind of thing. In former times, the Elizon were the sole inhabitants of Eorzea. Okay, so per norm, the elves are the original race on the continent that we're on. Claiming dominion over her, traditionally nomadic people, the tall, slender Elizon believed the realm to be theirs by divine right. Unfortunately, this belief made the eventual appearance of Hyur and their multitude akin to that of an invasion, and a long history of conflict ensued. Okay. They diverged into 2 clans. Lalafell, okay, so these are just really short people like dwarves. A wee people sporting short, round, rotund bodies. Lalafell appear as no more than children in the eyes of most. Many of these nimble little folk hail from the islands that surround the seas. Okay. Don't really need to read more on them. Cat people, of course. The ancestors of the Mikote made their way to Eorzea during the Age of Endless Frost, traversing the frozen seas in pursuit of wildlife upon which they subsided. Adaptation to hunting lifestyle had fashioned them with a keen sense of smell, powerful legs, and a tail which provides them with exceptional balance. A tail gives them balance? Roegadyn. Known for their brawny builds and piercing eyes, Roegadyn are the largest and most rugged of Eorzean races. The majority of the realm's Roegadyn belong to the Sea Wolf clan, to maritime people who are in their keep on by the sea, be it as sailors, fishermen, or pirates. Comparatively fewer number are the Hellsgird. Okay, so is that like their sub-race? I think so. Okay, Aura, really horned people. The curved horns and beautifully patterned scales that characterize the Aura oft give rise to speculation that members of Hyur-like race native to the far eastern continent of Othardar. In fact, the dragons? Huh. This however has been long disputed, with scholars citing several distinct differences in the 2 races as evidence. Okay. So in other words, it's human but with weird ear things and possible dragon heritage. Hrothgar, so these are wolf people. Hailing from the distant shores of Ilzabar, the Hrothgar are burly people of lion-like appearance, or the males are at least. Females number staggeringly few among the population and thus are rarely so much as glimpsed by the other races. So that explains why it's gender-locked. Yeah. Sharp claws, incited pain among... Okay, so it's other words, these are just like an invasion people. Viera, so bunny girls. Okay, very nice. Of tall stature and slender frame, the Viera's physical appearance is strikingly similar to that of Hyur and Elizon, save for their... Okay, so it's just a bunny person. Let's go with Elizon. No, not female. Male. Okay, Wildwood. Okay, have lived in the safest of ARs. Okay, this is just like where they live. They have stats, but those stats literally mean nothing. So let's go with Wildwood. Next up was customizing the Wildwood Elzen that I chose. Character customization in 14 is based mostly on a mix and match system, with the only slider being for height. Luckily, there were a lot of options to make a character unique, but players with the same tribe and race will always end up looking similar to each other in one way or another. That kind of makes it hard to truly make a distinct character that is truly your own, but as I see it, as long as the character looks good, it's fine. The last part of creating a character was choosing a class. Like in a few other MMOs, you were only given a list of a few classes to start with. These are the classes that start at level 1, of course. There are many other classes besides the starting ones that can be accessed at a certain level, like Samurai for example. It's only available once you hit level 50. But no matter what class you choose, you can easily switch between them just by a click of a few buttons, as thanks to 14's very versatile class system, you can play literally every class without any restrictions and level them all to the max level of 80, which is what it is currently thanks to the Shadowbringers expansion, completely independently, and you get a pretty good EXP bonus as long as you have one that's much higher level. For me, the highest I've seen it is around like 240%, so that makes it a lot easier to level, especially when you get past level 50, and then it seems that every single level up wants you to get an additional like 600,000 EXP or something from the previous level, which on its own takes forever to grind out. So if you have that EXP bonus, it is so useful. Gladiators are a one-handed sword and shield class. They turn into Paladin at level 30 and you start in Ul'dah. They're a tank class. Pugilist is a punchy boy who turns into a monk at level 30, and it's a DPS class. You start in Ul'dah. Marauder is a tank class that wields a broadaxe, and it's called a broadaxe, right? The great axe, my bad. And at level 30 it turns into warrior. You start in Limsla Minsa. Gridania's first starting class is a lancer, which of course uses a spear boy. Turns into dragoon at level 30 and is a DPS role. So the first ranged DPS of the bunch is the archer, which starts in Gridania as a DPS class and turns into bard at level 30. I don't know why it's bard. So then you're getting into your magic classes. Conjurer is a healer class, I believe, and it starts in Gridania. I forget what it turns into at 30. Thaumatage is also a support class and turns into, I think it's a support class. I'm not too sure on the Disciples of Magic. But the Conjurer like conjures things. Thaumatage, I forget what they do. They bring, yeah, come on. I don't remember. Honestly, I'm not going to pretend I do. And there's Arcanist, which I also don't remember, but I do know that this one for sure turns into Scholar, and it is a support class. So yeah, that's all the jobs that you can start out with in Final Fantasy XIV. Technically, I lied when I said that class was the last part of character creation, because after choosing a character class, you pick two other things. Though they're very small and purely cosmetics, so I don't know why they're in there, but hey, if you want to do some really deep RP, I guess they're good. But these two things are your birthday, which I don't know if it has any practical uses. Maybe it gives you a gift on the birth date or something. And also the Guardian, which is like one of the 12 gods of the world that you choose between to have as a Guardian. It gives you literally no benefit whatsoever. Trust me, I did my research on them and was very disappointed to find out that by choosing for what I chose of Helon the Fury, when I go to Ishgard, I don't get like some, hey, it's good that you're a believer too, kind of thing. Now, there isn't really a true tutorial like you see in a lot of other MMOs where you're separated out from other players in like your own little instance zone. No. Instead, the first, like, hour and a half of the game plays like a freaking visual novel. Which is probably one of the worst ways to get you into a game, especially an MMO like this. It constantly stops you from doing anything with new screens that display walls upon walls of text. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that the starting cities in the game felt huge and, like, just absolutely incredible, I would have quit the game right there. But it wasn't just me suffering. Since I always stream when I try out new games, chat had to bear witness to my horrible attempts of voice acting, which is always fun to make people suffer through. Now then, what if I was to offer you some invaluable advice by way of welcome into our fair city? Free of charge even, just this once like.
If you're looking to join the Adventurers Guild, you've come to the right place. Name's Momodi, and I own this finest tablet.
I can't do it. The visual novel section of the early game is actually very much worth sitting through, because once the game takes the kitty gloves off, though it took longer than I would have liked, the game hits you with just how big it is and how, like, vast it is. It's hard to describe, but, like, I've always been trying to find games that actually truly immerse you in another world and make you feel like you're going on an adventure. And Final Fantasy XIV is definitely the game that has invoked that, like, sense of the unknown and adventure more than any other game I've played, which is honestly fantastic. The game makes the right decision to start you off in one of the 3 main cities of Eorzea. In my case, it was Ul'dah, which is the desert city in the country, city-state, I don't know what they're called, but, like, it's called Thanalan. There are players of all levels everywhere, and it feels like a real bustling city. Then you go into the zones, which are quite large and full of quests and leveled world events called Fates. You can freely explore the zones to your heart's content, and even travel to completely new provinces of the world. As long as you can find a way to avoid the mobs, which are a very high level at this case. And at this time I was like level 5, and most of the zones that you need to get through to get to that other city have mobs with around level 25 to 30 monsters. So if you get in combat, you're screwed. The only thing that I found to be subpar at this point in the game was combat, which is, yeah, that's kind of important. 14 is a tab target MMO, like most, that relies on an auto attack system and abilities for combat. The thing is, early in the game you have almost no abilities, so it is press 1 to win for a while. Don't cheese it. Damn it. But level 1 enemies are annoying. They involve actually thinking. Well, they involve not thinking. Which means they suck. Oh my god, that doesn't even take MP. I can just spam that one out. This is great. I hate it. While combat at this point is quite boring, out in the world, the events that I mentioned called Fates would keep things interesting. Giving you a new objective to complete, normally a kill quest, actually always a kill quest, or giving you a bit of story before a fight. These are all available to anyone in the area to take part in, as long as you level sync down if you're over a certain level above the level of the Fate. There's a lot to do with the levels. So you can have a whole group suddenly come down on this monster you're fighting, or you can be the one to join in. And I've done Fates, especially for like world events like the recent Dragon Quest crossover, where there's literally like 400 people waiting for the event to start, and then you just wail on all the monsters, and it's definitely a spectacle. Here, I'll help you. I won't be much help, but yeah. I see nothing that could go wrong here. Yes, join us, fellow gladiator. We will spam out our abilities until we win. It will be glorious. Ah, yes. This is beautiful. When 4 people gang up on someone, we are almost unstoppable. An honorable duel. Yes. I see nothing wrong with this picture other than that we are obviously going... Oh my god, another one joins the fray. Guys, I 100% soloed that. I don't know what they're talking about, but I soloed it. So Final Fantasy XIV is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but the early game is completely on rails. Until level 15, you will be grinding out quests for almost no EXP, and just trying to plow through the main scenario, as everything is unlocked through it. You can't just go off on your own from the get-go and create your own story. And yeah, while the main story always plays a role in an MMO, in others I've played, like especially in Elder Scrolls Online, which was my main MMO for the longest time, I loved how you could just effectively tell the main story to screw off and just go do your own thing. Creating your own story and doing side quests and such if you feel like it. But 14 is still a Final Fantasy game, so unless you progress the main story, you're going to be locked out of most of the world. Luckily, by the time you complete the level 15 quest required to kickstart the game, which I did at roughly level 23 or so I was over a good bit. But anyway, the narrative has already gotten interesting by that point, and it only goes uphill from there. Hey, but that's where I'll be drawing the line for this video, as by the time I reached that point, the game had me hook, line, and sinker. Okay, so at this point, with the amount I've played, I'm about 6 days of playtime in. I've completed the entirety of the Realm Reborn quest. Everything that comes after it, patches 2.1, yeah, 2.1 through 2.55, also known by people as the 7th Astral Slog. And I've also done the first half of Heavensward, the game's first expansion. The early game is completely on rails, and it continues through a good part of A Realm Reborn, that much is true. But after the first 12 or so hours that it takes to complete the starting city questline, the narrative becomes really interesting and worth spending time playing, and things just take off from there. There are things constantly opening up after the first few hours, there's always something to do, and many things to do daily with some pretty sweet rewards. 14 has definitely become my main MMO, and is the reason I'm so far behind on recording and editing videos. Saying that sounds lazy, but whatever I guess. Considering it's true that the only reason I've gotten around now to recording these videos and editing them, like the whole thing I'm doing right now, is because my first 30 days of free play after buying the game have now run out. So yeah, it sucks you in. Combat becomes really fun once you unlock a handful of abilities, more than you're seeing in the footage that I no doubt have playing behind this right now. And each role feels different and is quite enjoyable, whether it be tank, DPS, or healer. Actually, minus healer, that one I find boring, since I always play a damage or a tank. But hey, it's the most important role, so someone needs to do it. So yeah, I love this game and highly recommend at least trying it if you haven't already. As it is free to play with nearly full access to everything except pretty much the market board until level 35. That is roughly around 30 hours or so of playtime to level 1 class of 35, that is. And it literally lets you level all the available classes that start below level 35 in the free trial. So there's no reason to not try out the game. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on the game, but what are yours? If you want to share, then leave a comment. I guarantee I'll read it, as I don't get any normally. So with that, my name is Lokidum, and thank you for watching. Hey, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll stream 4 days a week over on Twitch, so make sure to check that out for streams and such. I may even be live right now. But if I'm not, there are always more videos to check out on the channel if you are interested. And without further ado, have a good day.